All right, so let's switch gears here. Ryan in Indianapolis has a question. He said, long story short, he has a very long-time league, okay? One of the newer managers is barely doing anything. He's not talking. He's barely replying. One trade all year, no fab money spent. He's been playing Alshon Jeffery.
Oh, wait.
If you play,
What do you do with this guy?
You kick him out. That's what you do. I mean,
and they pay a lot of jelly beans to play in this league.
So here's exactly what you do. We've had, in some of our big long leagues where we've got waiting lists to get guys in. Every now and then a guy comes in, and when he's new and he's not playing well, there's not much you can do. But when he's new and he's playing guys that aren't playing in the NFL games, that's where, you kind of do you're at 2 strikes. You do that again and you're out, and I would replace him.
Yeah.
Send in the car.
Send in the car.
You can't have somebody playing inactive players. It imbalances the whole league. It's not fair.
Yeah,
and
whoever plays them every week gets a bye week.
It ruins the game, so you kick them out.
Yeah,
or you tell them you just send a message that says we're gonna kick you out if you keep screwing up. If they don't reply, they don't reply. But you at least
that's the screw up.
Yeah,
and that's why it's nice. I mean, it sounds funny, but we have a couple big leagues that we want. We have 2 or 3 people waiting to play. So if you have somebody else that wants to get in the league, it's not as easy as just kicking them out. You need to find somebody to fill the role. But yeah, or figure something out with managing that team. But yeah, I'd boot him. All right, so Ryan in Boston wants to know rest of season, who would you rather have as a handcuff? Would you rather have Ryan Mathews or Thomas Rawls?
Ooh, that is a good one.
Rawls had a big week. We're talking probably 5 to 6 to 10 at the most weekly carries for Rawls, depending on game flow.
So assuming you have neither of their handcuffs.
I would assume you have.
Well, if you've got
either situation, they're asking from a handcuff perspective.
No. I'm saying if you've got DeMarco Murray, then the more valuable guy to have is Ryan Mathews. If you've got Marshawn Lynch, the more valuable guy to have is Thomas Rawls. Assuming you don't have either of those guys, and we're just, I don't have either of those guys in any of my leagues, but I want both of these guys, Ryan Mathews and Thomas Rawls. Who do I want more? Probably Ryan Mathews, because Ryan Mathews is, in my opinion, able to get production when DeMarco Murray plays. And I don't think Thomas Rawls is going to get production when Marshawn Lynch plays, but I do expect Marshawn Lynch to miss more games. So
it's absolutely close. Ryan Mathews for me. I saw a blurb of the coaching staff saying that they basically see DeMarco and Ryan Mathews as the same guy, and they're very interchangeable, so to speak. So Ryan Mathews will get production weekly. DeMarco is the preferred Philadelphia running back. I'm not saying that Mathews is taking the job, but I'm just saying that he's going to be involved weekly.
It's interesting, though, because the question is who's the most valuable handcuff, and you have a guy with a pre-existing injury, and neither of you guys chose the handcuff to the guy with the injury that's missed multiple games.
Well,
that's what made it curious to me.
I will say this. On the opposite side, if you have both of them, and therefore both of these guys are actually handcuffs on your roster and you can't have both, then I would rather have Thomas Rawls. I thought he was just using handcuff as a description for what those two guys
are. Backup running back.
Not necessarily that I've got the starter of these guys and they are the handcuff.
All right, so we've talked about Gurley on the show quite a bit today. Mike in New York wants to know, he has Gurley on bye. Okay, so Gurley's on bye this week. The Rams are on bye. He needs an RB2 to play in his place. Would it be C.J. Anderson, Ronnie Hillman, or Jeremy Hill this week? It's a PPR league.
Oh, man.
Because, Mike.
Answer this question because I have to do the exact same thing.
I would go C.J. Anderson. With Hillman's hamstring tweaked, you've got the opportunity there for C.J. Anderson yet again. Jeremy Hill has not been doing anything more than C.J. Anderson other than those few goal lines, which could go either way. So for me, I would rather, especially in a PPR where he's going to catch maybe 2 or 3 if Hillman's out 4, maybe 5 balls. Even if he doesn't do anything with them, there are more points. How many catches is Jeremy Hill going to have?
0, 1, maybe. I don't know.
I am not excited about either this week in any way. So I think I will side with the Anderson side because of the matchup with the Browns versus the Bills. But, it just I think Hill's chance of scoring a touchdown is much higher. So that's a tough one for sure. Let's talk trade for a second. Javier in Mexico City. Should I trade Adrian Peterson and Alshon Jeffery for Eddie Lacy and Julio Jones.
Ooh.
He is a desperate 1-4 team. If you're desperate.
Yeah. So here's the thing with Alshon Jeffery, and this is just me hypothesizing. The Bears are on bye next week. It would not shock me to see Alshon Jeffery sit again and give him 3 more weeks to rest and come back 100%. That's not information I'm hearing. That's just kind of an educated guess of what could happen.
That makes sense. But by the same what you're hearing, just logic argument, you could say that Julio Jones should sit because it's a Thursday game and it's going to be early.
Yeah, but he can play. I don't think Julio Jones will sit. I don't know how effective he will be, but just moving. And I'm saying that because Alshon, then you're guaranteed if he sits that's 2 more weeks you don't have Alshon, or maybe he plays this week and then he's on bye next week. When is the Falcons bye?
I do not. That's one of the things that is not readily
available. But
I'll get that.
In general, if everybody's healthy, I want the
Falcons have a week 10 bye.
Yeah, I would.
So Jason, would you do that trade?
I'm taking Lacy and Julio.
Yeah, I think I would do Lacy and Julio. I am not super high on Alshon's prospects at the moment, and Julio is maybe the best wide receiver that you could have. And Eddie Lacy, I fully expect to bounce back, and he's going to be fine. Would I rather have
concerns about Lacy, or what about long-term concerns about Julio with fighting this injury?
That's fair, but I've got the same long-term concerns about Alshon Jeffery. He comes back and tweaks it again. I mean, he sat out 3 or 4 weeks preseason, came back and tweaked it again. So who's to say that doesn't happen again? So no more so than Alshon.
All right, Joe in New York City.
New York City.
Thank you. Should he drop? This is Cardinals running back situation, so I'd love to get your perspective on it as a whole. But should he drop Chris Johnson or Andre Ellington? Should he keep both?
Keep both.
You can't drop.
And then if you have both, who do you start?
Chris Johnson.
In a PPR?
Chris Johnson.
Okay.
You start Chris Johnson. I would hold on to Ellington or move him. If you are considering drop him, just trade him away for peanuts. Just something that is decent to have on your bench, because you're probably going to find a better player in a trade than you're going to find on the waiver wire, unless you're grabbing Charmander.
No, I know that running back situation, as we saw this past week, is a little unpredictable too. You got Dave. If Chris Johnson gets the goal line there, all of a sudden he's
right. Well, I think David Johnson gets the goal line.
No, I know. I'm saying, from week to week, there's going to be, if the score comes from 5 yards and out, it might be Chris Johnson. If it comes from 50 and out, it might be Ellington. I mean, you just, it's too hard to predict.
And Ellington has never. And the way he was used when he had great success his rookie year, he wasn't used like Chris Johnson is being used right now. They haven't had this kind of running success in Arizona. I can't even recall the last time they ran the ball like this. There's no way they can sit Chris Johnson down.
The backfield there, obviously the success is different, but it reminds me of how muddy the water was in New York last year, where you had Ivory and Chris Johnson and Bilal Powell, and you just didn't know week to week. I mean, you could roll one out there and get lucky, but it's tough. So, all right, that is it for today's Mailbag show. I'm looking forward to week 6.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I'm indifferent.
I've got high expectations. I'm looking forward to the Thursday night game. I think it's going to be closer than people think it will be.
Uh-oh.
It's in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's a divisional game. There have been many surprises in those situations, so I'm not.
Are you calling maybe an Andy's almost upset of the week?
It's a little premature for that.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. We'll talk about it on Thursday. It really was. So. But yeah, thank you for listening to the show. Hopefully we answered some questions. You enjoyed Fred Jackson. Thanks again for having him on the show. Check out the Sports Manias app, and we will be back here Thursday and Friday previewing the weekend games.
I got the need for sneeze.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.